Hello and welcome back to another episode on the channel by me, TheWiseJames. I'm just going to be watching this guy talking about trial by jury is apparently being attacked or something, or might be ending, I don't know. Seems important, so I'm going to have to check it out. He used to be a very good historian who talked about the Celtic Empire, the history of Britain, the history of Scotland, the history of Wales and the English Empire, military conflicts, that sort of thing. He used to be a very good educator who educated people about facts, historical facts. And these days, he just spins a load of bullshit on GB News for them. And they pay him to do that, staining his good name to do it. Not that he knows this, but that's what they do. They've ruined his academic career. He has no academic career left, really. Let's be honest. So that's why he's on TV. Lying for a propaganda machine. Anyway, I want to see what's going on. What's this trial by jury thing?
The whole world is ill. You might say it's...
Did he say the whole world is L? Is he trying to be hip and cool? Just use the fucking word. The whole world is on a downturn. The whole world is bad. Don't try and sound like some kid. Oh, the world's an L. It's not a W, man.
sick. Many people, me included, can feel it. The heat, the nausea, the inflammation. It manifests this sickness in perpetual war, loss of freedom, censorship, the contempt shown by the few so-called powerful towards the many, ceaseless propaganda, cancellation.
He's literally working for a propaganda machine, a far right-wing political group, Reform, and their propaganda machine, which is GB News, here. And he's now talking about propaganda. Like, don't take the piss out of me, Mr. Oliver.
Censorship, the contempt shown by the few so-called powerful towards the many, ceaseless propaganda, cancellation of national borders, an almost endless list of symptoms. I'm Neil Oliver, and this is GBN Originals. Most recently, it has seen this sickness, people given longer sentences in prison for things they've posted on social media, longer sentences than those handed down to people who've raped children.
Yes, that's actually something I agree with. I mean, look at the felling of that tree in the north. I mean, obviously it's a famous tree. We all love the tree. It's a beautiful tree. Had been there for hundreds of years. Was a national treasure. And two blokes cut it down, went to jail. So there's literally men out there who have literally attacked children and women who got less time than two blokes for cutting down a tree. And then there's a woman who posted some things on Facebook who's doing more time than even them. It's not fair. The justice system isn't fair. You've got a murderer killing people, getting an 18-year sentence, who gets out in 9 years with good behaviour. You've got rapists who are literally raping women and children, getting less time than people who post things on social media. Like, people are going to prison for cutting down a tree, but people can put me under the Mental Health Act and torture me, and nothing's done. Like, the world is going to shit. The world is literally going to shit. So I agree with Mr. Oliver here on that.
People face jail for protesting, which might suit you today when you don't agree with the protesters or the protest. But what happens when the day comes and you want to protest a wrong? What then?
Look, everyone has the right to protest, okay? But you don't have the right to obstruct other people, like the highway. If you stop in the middle of the road, you're breaking the highway code. That's against the law, you're committing a crime. That's not your right. Your right is to do a peaceful protest. Yes, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. And I will fight for anyone's right to do that. But I will not fight for your right to stop in the middle of the road, stopping ambulances on the way to hospital, stopping pregnant women on the way to hospital, stopping men and women going to their jobs, stopping kids from going... No, I will not support that. If you want to protest, you protest in the right place. You don't make everyone else's life worse just because you've got something to say, okay? You try your best to do it in the right way, in the right place, at the right time, right? I've got a lot of things to say about my family. I don't go print leaflets off and go and post it around their fucking neighbourhood, do I? No. Right? There's a time and a place for certain things. So if you want to protest about oil, you should probably go to the Grand Prix or to Shell. You know, you should go to these places. Like lying in the middle of the road and gluing yourself to the fucking road and stopping ambulances, that's not peaceful, is it? You're causing a scene. You've breached the peace. So it wasn't a peaceful protest if you breached the peace. Obstruction is against the law. Like, if I'm walking down the street and you stop me in my way, that's against the law. It's obstruction. It's also a foul in football, right? If I'm running with a football and you stand in my way and don't get the ball, that's obstruction. It's a foul. You can even get a yellow card for it if it's bad enough. You can even get a red if you stuck an elbow out, right? Obstruction is against the law. So, though you have the right to peaceful protest, you do not have the right to obstruct members of the public in their daily life. Go fuck yourself, alright? You don't have that right.
People get ill when their immune systems fail them. That which could and should be fighting infection and holding sickness at bay has been made weak. Our country's immune system, Britain's immune system, has been trial by jury. Trial by jury is democracy in action. Trial by trial, in real time. And when I say has been, I mean has been, because it's being taken away. Our immune system, right before our eyes.
The thing is, right, I'm going to say this very carefully, right? I don't care if you're a racist. I don't care if you're a reform. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're Labour, right? Trial by jury is fucking important, right? It's fucking important because if we don't have trials by jury, we can't prove when the state wrongly convicts someone. A wrongly convicted person would just be put in jail and they'd be left to rot. That'd be it. And unless they had unsurmountable evidence to prove the contrary, they would be left to rot in jail, no matter how innocent they were. We need trial by juries. We fucking need them. And the only reason the governments are trying to stop them is because the court systems are so backlogged, they're trying to reduce the backlog, right? That's fine that they're trying to reduce the backlog, but trial by jury won't help that. What they need is to hire more police officers, hire more court officials, make more courts, build more prisons. That's what they fucking need to do, the idiots. So yeah, this is a serious matter that affects us all. You just need to pay very serious attention. Because if we lose trial by jury, then the legal system is no longer a legal system, is it? It's a punishment system. It's not a legal system where you can defend yourself and you can be proven innocent. No, it's you are guilty and that's it. That's what it would be. That would be it. Alright? And that's what they're going to try and do. That's what they're going to try and do.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution.
There isn't. The problem is wages have been going up double, but prices have gone up triple. So although everyone has 33% more money at least, everything they have costs 66% more. So they're actually 33% poorer, but think and feel like they're 33% richer. But when they go to the shops and spend their money, no, 33% poorer. Because since the 90s, wages went up double. Prices have tripled. So everyone is poorer. Everyone. Even her on the news. You and me. We're poorer. Everyone is fucking poorer. Because the governments of this world are shit.
I'm here today with the CEO of Tally Money, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is Tally Money?
Well, Bev, with Tally Money, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of bridge...
Oh, fuck off trying to sell me your product bullshit.
As a friend of mine put it, quote, voting in elections for representatives to enact a raft of policies, as opposed to voting for representatives who can be trusted to uphold the Constitution, is really no more than mob rule. close quote. An evolutionary biologist friend of mine has described the body's immune system as being like the Pacific Ocean in the early days of its exploration by navigators, which is to say, of unknown depth and extent, home to goodness knew what. Those navigators were like insects on the surface of that vastness, taking their lives in their hands in the face of powers barely imagined. Mostly out of sight and out of mind, moves are being made by the so-called establishment of this country, mostly to do away with our immune system altogether. Last month, former Lord Justice Sir Brian Levison recommended a huge increase in the number of trials taking place without a jury. Even before his recommendation.
Nah, that's fucking bang out of order, that is. Why would someone suggest that we have court cases without a jury unless they were trying to have little certain bits of information overlooked or certain crimes got away with? Like, that makes no sense to anyone unless you're trying to get away with crime. I'm sorry, that makes no fucking sense to get away with trial by jury. Makes no sense. How is that person in the Lords? Get them sacked. Fuck them. Get them sacked. Get them out. Get them out. What was their name?
Levison of this country, mostly to do away with our immune system altogether. Last month, former Lord Justice...
Former Lord. Former. Okay, that made me feel a lot better, that did. That made me feel a lot better. You try and take away our fucking rights, you cunts, and you watch. We'll take your fucking jobs, alright?
Sir Brian Levison recommended a...
Sir Brian Levison, who's trying to get away with trial by jury. I bet you because he's up for a criminal matter with a trial. I bet you. I fucking bet you.
Huge increase in the number of trials taking place without a jury. Even before his recommendations, only something like 1% of trials are considered by a jury. Levison's recommendations might be described as the last nail. Someone bring a hammer and nail this coffin shut, you might say.
I would love for a jury to deliberate on if I was tortured by the British state under the Mental Health Act, and if I'm due compensation for that. I would fucking love a jury to deliberate on that, because I also want this country to not only pay me for me being tortured under the Mental Health Act. I think you should all be paying everyone. Every single mentally disabled person who you lot allowed to be tortured by your taxes will be compensated. Or, if they have died, their families will be compensated. Every single lobotomy, every single unneeded electrotherapy, every single unneeded medication, forced injection, every single human experimentation wrongfully committed against British people by the British government, funded by British taxpayers, will be compensated. Okay? If you're going to pay a bunch of people for a blood scandal and the Royal Mail because of wrongly charging them with the crimes they were actually the victims of, and the royal family somehow managed to sell it just before all the scandal dropped, but we'll not get into that, shall we? We'll not get into the fact that the royal family somehow managed to sell this business off and remove themselves as ownership or anything to do with it just before the scandal dropped. We'll forget about that. So if you're going to pay all these people, then you're also going to have to pay every single British person who was mistreated, abused, and tortured under the Mental Health Act through misuses of the Mental Health Act. For example, the lobotomies on soldiers who didn't need them, right? 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, unsolicited, unneeded, unconsensual lobotomies. They basically tied these people to chairs and chopped up their brain and called it medical treatment. These days, we also have electrotherapy and forced medication. So they can put you on a community treatment order and force medication into you that they know won't cure you, just to see if it helps. Just to see if it helps. Which is human experimentation, by the way. That is human torture. That's a breach of the Geneva Convention and all human rights charters. Not to mention the electrotherapy, you know, they still drill holes in people's foreheads, stick an electrode in, and electrocute the fuck out of them, and hope it makes them better. Hope it makes them better. This is the shit they do to people like me. To me, people like me. They torture us. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in mental health wards up and down the UK, and all your taxes pay for it. And I know we all will be compensated. One day or another, we will get compensation for what you have all allowed to happen to us. It was no different after World War II with homosexuals. They were forced medication that sterilised them, right? And they called it medical treatment. Medical treatment, right? There's nothing wrong with being a schizophrenic. Just like there's nothing wrong with being homosexual. The problem is when you're mentally unwell. And if you can't separate the voices from your own mind, so you act on it, that's the problem, right? That's when you get sectioned, okay? But the problem is, you get tortured under the Mental Health Act. Tortured! And without a trial, no one would ever know. No one would ever know what these bastards do to people.
That same biologist friend of mine said interfering, tinkering with the vast...
It makes me very upset, to be honest, that you all in Britain allow this every day, because each and every single one of you is that away from being in that place. Every single one of you in this country, all 60 million of you, could end up in a mental health ward being tortured. But you don't care until you're in that situation, right? And then you'd fucking care, wouldn't you? If you were getting tied to a chair, some cunt's fucking drilling a hole in your forehead and calling it medical treatment. Are you serious? See, you all care more about the boats, more about trans people wanting to be called Zems or Zims. You don't care about British women and children and men being tortured by your taxes. And they call it medical treatment. Yeah, they said the same thing. The Nazis said the same thing. They said what they were doing to the Jews was medical treatment. They said the same thing, the British government, about their treatment of homosexuals after World War II, and they sterilised them. And what was it, Alan Turing, who cracked the Enigma code? He was forced medication, sterilised, he committed suicide. Literally won us the war, and the state tortured him to the point where he took his own life. Forced medication on him, where he took his own life. That is human experimentation and torture. And it still goes on today. Sort it out, you cunts.
Largely uncharted ocean of the human immune system was a dangerous game to play. What is being pushed in relation to the ancient right of trial by jury is much worse. It's the suggestion that the living body of Britain, the people of Britain, should be denied their immune system altogether. I say this because it's the jury, 12 people in England and Wales, 15 in Scotland, that working as the community's immune system prevents runaway disease and infection in the body of the people. If you want to know what I think our so-called establishment, being the monarchy, the aristocracy, the civil service, the judiciary, the mainstream media, the church, academia, I see that as nothing but a set of opportunist infections. I first learned the term opportunist infection in relation to the phenomenon we learned to call AIDS. People didn't die of AIDS as such. Rather, their immune systems were so weakened by AIDS that they died of infections a healthy immune system would have held at bay.
Like a common cold. Someone with HIV that progressed into AIDS, their immune system is so weak and so frail that literally a common cold will kill them. Literally, a common cold will definitely kill someone with that level of immune system. Like, he's right. It's not usually the AIDS that kills them. It's very rarely the AIDS that kills them. It's the immune system so weak that literally your body is so vulnerable to attack that such a basic virus like a cold will kill them.
Cancer is mostly held at bay by a healthy, functioning immune system. Where the immune system is
See, this is why I used to like watching this guy. He was a great historian, talking about the Celtic Empire, the Welsh history and the Scottish history. I used to love lying in bed watching his documentaries, and now he's part of this propaganda machine, using his skills and talents and expertise in history to help advance a delusional propaganda machine. Like, I know he's got to earn a living, and fair play, mate, but how far you've fallen from a highly educated man advancing the world of science to a political tool helping them lie to the British public. Although you are saying true things, like, you represent a lying organisation, so although you are an honest man, the organisation you work for is not, and they're using your honesty to lie. So, you're part of the truthful lie, you're the truth part, they are the lie.
Compromised.
I'm trying not to hold it against him that he works for fucking GB News, but like, that's like trying to ignore the fact that Jimmy Savile was helped by the BBC and they all work at the BBC. I can't ignore all these people who work at a company that allowed Jimmy Savile to get away with it. The same reason I can't understand all these people working at this company funded by Reform, who's literally Reform's media channel, and just lying to the British public about things. Like,
cancer cells reproduce themselves unchecked, metastasizing, the cancer spreading from its point of origin in the body to one organ after another. When you mention trial by jury, most people's eyes just glaze over. The subject sounds dry and dull.
Do you know, the one type of person whose eyes will not dull over when you talk about trial by jury is someone who has faced wrongful persecution by the government. If you've ever been wrongfully persecuted or pursued by the government, you will honestly 100% love the idea of trial by jury, because it means you can present the evidence and say, look, I wasn't guilty of this crime. This is what happened. This was the case. So you can't say this was the crime when I didn't do that, right? You know what I mean? It's good. But when there's no jury, the judge just comes in and goes, yeah, so I can see here you did this. Bosh, jail. Like, that's it. There's no questioning in it. There's no appealing it. There's no other people checking if what they did was right. The judge and the CPS go, nope, he's guilty, send him to jail, and that's it. That's it. There's no court case eventually. If there's no trial by jury, eventually there would be no court case. What's the point in having a court case if you don't have a trial?
I tell you now, though, that the subject of trial by jury has been made to sound dry and dull by those who would prefer that when it came to the law under which we're supposed to live, that we just don't bother our pretty little heads with any of it.
Oh yeah, they don't want you to know the law, because then you can use it against them. Like, did you know that actually to be held under the Mental Health Act requires two separate doctors doing a mental health assessment and deeming you mentally unwell, right? 2 separate mental health assessments. So, if 2 doctors do the same assessment at the same time in the same room, that is not separate. That is a breaking of that is breaking the law. So they illegally use the Mental Health Act to hold patients under the Mental Health Act. So that they've taken a patient hostage by breaking the law, using the government to do it, right? It's sick. It's fucking sick. But that's the law, right? You've got to do it separately. So there's a Dr. Willis and a Dr. Aslan Pizzada. Very specific names, boys. Unlucky your parents gave you that. So Dr. Willis, who works at a Morpeth in the northeast, and Aslan Pizzada, Dr. Aslan Pizzada, they both, on several occasions, have done mental health assessments together at the same time in the same room, breaking the law, illegally holding British people under the Mental Health Act, right? But no one's ever charged them. But I bet you if there was a jury, they would. They fucking would. That's the reason they do that, is so that you don't get put in an asylum just because you're having a bad day. You know? That would be unfair, you know? You get hit by a car or something, your shopping falls out of its bag, someone steals your bank card, you're having a really bad day, you fucking lose the plot, you have a drink and do something stupid, you end up getting mentally assessed by 2 blokes at the same time and put you in an asylum? No. They have to do two separate assessments. And if they don't, they broke the law, they lose their medical license, they should be in prison, they should be charged. They should never be allowed to practice medicine again. Once again, their names are Dr. Willis and Aslan Posada. Fuck you, cunts. Break the law again, boys. Do it. Do it. See what happens.
What's trial by jury got to do with anything, goes the unspoken question. The answer to that question is that trial by jury, and only trial by jury, empowers a little group of people, what Sir Patrick Devlin in 1956 described as a little parliament.
I love trial by jury because we can literally stop an innocent member of the public being wrongly charged. Like, there's been so many times in history where we've nearly charged an innocent member of the public wrongly of serious crimes, and it was only the jury that saved them. But then you've also got to argue the jury has saved some people who have committed crimes from being charged. But I don't think we should be getting away with juries. No. I think that's the state overstepping the mark. This is our country, right? Our rules, our laws. And if you try and take us out of the situation, we're going to take you out of the situation. All right?
To judge not just the guilt or innocence of the accused, but the very justice of the legislation that has been used to bring the accused to trial in the first place. Any administration, and I use the word deliberately, in place of government. In a democracy, the people govern themselves, and elected representatives do more than administer the people's wishes. Any administration will, given half a chance, write and pass legislation that gives it total, and I do mean totalitarian, control. By those means, the people having no say in the rightness and justice of the laws by which they're supposed to live, by those means are the people led to that dread place.
Yeah, I don't think the British government understands how close to a revolution they are. Like, I'm not going to incite violence or hatred because I love my country. I don't want anyone to get hurt. But at the rate the government's going, men and women are going to rise up and overthrow the government because they're sick of it. There's going to be either civil war or a revolution the way the government is going, because they're literally pushing so hard that it's only a matter of time before the British public start pushing back. And they've already started pushing back, and yet the government hasn't let off. They're still pushing. So this is escalating. It's not de-escalating. And I don't want that. Like, this is the perfect environment for someone like me, some crazy lunatic, to try and rally up an army of men and take over. And the government needs to be very careful. Very careful. If you're going to try and remove trial by jury, you're going to try and force students to not call a teacher him and her and call them a zim or zem. Fuck you, cunts. You're not putting your trans ideology bullshit in my child, right? Fuck you. No. If you want to brainwash my child with your ideology, I will brainwash you with my ideology. I swear to fucking God. You want to watch? You dare try and brainwash? I've already sorted out the vegans. The vegans try to brainwash my child, and I put all them cunts in their place. You want me to put all you cunts in your place as well? Try it. You fucking try it. If my daughter wants to grow up when she's 18 and believe in trans ideology, that's fine. Don't care. But she's a child. She shouldn't know about adults' private parts and what they do with them. Okay? So shut the fuck up, you nonces.
Where orders come down from above, and where people are commanded to ignore what their own consciences might be telling them, what their own innate morality is telling them, and simply to...
My morality is telling me that the government knows it's on the brink of losing power, and it's trying to keep it. And it's not going to work. Like, all you have to do in order to stop the people trying to take power is give the people more power. So we were supposed to have de-evolution of government to local governments. And instead, they just blamed all the councils for mismanaging their budgets by underfunding them. Tories, by the way. And now all the councils are fucked. So, if you want to stop a revolution or civil unrest, you need to give the people more power, not less. If you take away our power, we're going to come get it.
Obey the order. I shouldn't have to remind anyone, least of all members of the establishment, the judiciary especially, that the defence of only obeying orders was supposedly done away with as part of the judgment of the Nuremberg trials at the end of World War II.
Yeah, here's a question for you, right? Now, comparing the Northumberland police to the Nazi SS is a bit extreme. I get you. Don't get me wrong. And I apologise to all the hard-working officers at Northumberland Police who do a damn good job. But hear me out, right? So, what is the difference between some SS soldiers in the 1940s breaking down a Jewish person's home and dragging them out their house off to a highly secure facility to do experimental medical treatment, which was torture, right? What is the difference between that and them laughing at them while they were doing it, and Northumberland Police breaking down my door in this flat here, this room, right? Barging in here, 12 officers laughing at me while they dragged me out of this house, fucking my shoulder, pulling it out of its socket, damaging giving me a lifelong injury, while laughing at me, dragging me off to a highly secure facility for experimental medical treatment. What is the fucking difference there? What's the difference? Any single one of those forced injections could have killed me. All it takes is wrongful administration and I would have been dead. Like that. So I had over 200 instances of forced injections where each single injection could have killed me. Luckily, the staff weren't dumbasses and it didn't, right? But they never helped me. They didn't make me better. I was left in a bed like this all day. I couldn't move. I went from going out to seeing my daughter for like 4 or 5 hours from the ward every day to only being able to manage to spend about half an hour to an hour around her, and then I had to get back into a bed. I had to lie in a bed. I could only literally get out of a bed for 5 to 10 minutes before I had to go and lie down for the rest of the day. I was literally poisoned for years because of Northumberland Police's Northumberland Police. So what's the difference between Northumberland Police dragging someone out their home because they're mentally unwell and injuring them, laughing at them, taking them off to a highly secure facility to be tortured, right? What's the difference between that and the SS doing that to a Jewish family? Dragging them out their homes, laughing at them while they do it, taking them off to a highly secure facility for experimental medical treatment, although it was torture, right? What's the difference? There is no difference. Our country, in the last 5 years, has turned into Nazi Germany. We are now the modern day Nazi Germany. You do understand that, right? You do understand history will look back in 100 years and see us as the Nazis. Because the way you all treat other people, the way you go on, the way you allow disabled people to be treated, the way you allow anyone to be treated who is different to you. Fucking Nazis, man. Honestly, cunts.
I shouldn't have to remind anyone, but, trial by...
This is what happened, right? My country was the most powerful island in the world. In 1997, we were the second most powerful country in the world. We had control of Hong Kong, and we gave it back to China after having it for 100 years. We were literally the most powerful island in the world. The second or third most powerful country in the world in 1997. In 20 years, 25 years, we are now this weak, frail, vulnerable island who can't even protect its own borders, women and children, let alone the island itself. You have all turned our country into an embarrassment. A fucking embarrassment. That's what you have done. That is what you have done. And everyone who died for this country in World War II would be turning in their fucking graves at what you have all allowed to happen. Do you know what they died for? Do you know what all those people died for? Freedom of speech. And I learnt from a very young age that I was not going to allow those men to die for nothing. And so I use the tool they have gifted me, freedom of speech. Maybe you should learn to do the same.
Jury sounds dry and dull, doesn't it? To prevent that hellish state of affairs, which is only obeying orders, which is textbook despotism, in which an administration makes itself all-powerful and beyond challenge, and in which the people are made slaves, we are supposed...
We're already slaves. If you want to leave this country, right, you need permission from the Home Office. If you want to change your name, you need permission from the government. If you want to go and work, you need permission from the government. You are slaves. What do you think royal protocol is? Royal protocol, right, is simply a way to keep you thinking that other people are above you, right? When they're not. You do realise, like, King Charles, although he's the head of state, right, the royal family is just like Dave and Barbara down the road, and they've got a few bob. That's all it is. They're not any different to you and me. He's a man, and he bleeds like a man, alright? Harry and William, although they're princes, with lots of money, and lots of power and influence, they're just men, like me, like him, like you. They're just human beings, right? They have no more power, realistically, than you or me. They have more money to do things, sure. But, like, when it comes down to things realistically, the royal family have done so much over the last 100 years to try and convince you all that you are, beneath them. You're not. You're fucking not. Prince Andrew's best friends with Epstein, man. Fuck off.
By ancient right to have the protection made of trial.
We are literally as slaves. You are treated as slaves. Your birth certificate is basically the crown's copy of ownership of you. That's literally what it says. Ownership of the crown. You are owned by the crown. Why? Because you are a slave to the royal family. A slave to the British royal family. All of you.
By jury. Trial by jury empowers that little parliament to decide if any given piece of legislation has the right to exist at all. Consider this scenario. Imagine an administration, a government if you will, passes legislation making it illegal for a man to wear green trousers on a Friday. A man is duly brought to court, accused of breaching the legislation. The evidence is put before the jury. Among other things, CCTV, clearly showing the accused in green trousers, in footage, date stamped as a Friday. Furthermore, the man admits that he did indeed wear green trousers on a Friday. The evidence makes plain the man has broken the green trousers law. The jury, however, fully understanding the evidence, nonetheless declares the man is innocent. They've considered the matter, each man and woman using only his or her own conscience, and decided unanimously that the man is innocent. And furthermore, and this is the really important bit, furthermore that the green trousers legislation is nonsense and should be disregarded. In point of fact, trial by jury, as originally instituted, had no truck whatever with majority. On the contrary, a real trial by jury required only one juror of 12 or 15 or whatever to return a not guilty verdict, and then that was the verdict of the whole jury, because majority is mob rule, remember? The fact is that for centuries, literally centuries, the so-called establishment has been busily and slyly whittling away at trial by jury, which is to say, busily and slyly whittling away at the people's immune system, the ancient system set in place long ago by...
How else are they going to deal with political threats? You do realise, things haven't changed in 1,000 years. It's just technology's better. Humans haven't changed, really. So, people who are in power, they still try and kill their opponents or silence them or take them hostage and put them in a tower somewhere so nobody can talk to them. Like, the governments of this world do exactly the same things they always used to do. They just have found new modern ways. The Mental Health Act happens to be a great method to silence political prisoners, right? Russia does it, China does it, fucking Japan does it, Korea does it, America even does it. Like, and you all think it's normal. You think it's perfectly normal because you've been brainwashed to accept this as part of your daily life. That someone becomes mentally unwell, they get a medical problem, and then they get carted off to a highly secure facility to be basically tortured. And they're mental. They deserve it. But what you fail to understand is that could be you. You could literally fall over and bump your head and become mentally unwell. And then that's you. You could wake up one morning, right, and been sleeping funny and have deprived your brain of so much oxygen somehow. I don't know. Anything can happen, right? You could all be mentally unwell one day. Depression, like anything. And you could end up in these wards and you could be tortured. And if there's no trial by jury, there'll be no one to help you. There will be no one to help you. Just like I had no one.
Wiser, more benevolent heads than theirs, specifically to protect the people from despotism. By now, we have the abomination of majority verdicts. We have the abomination of magistrates' courts. Most insidious of all, we have juries browbeaten by the notion, the egregious notion, that they should submit to the guidance of the judge. In this instance, everyone must be reminded that the judge is an employee of the very establishment that wrote the legislation and wishes at all times to get its own way. You hear people say that here in Britain we don't have a written constitution. Anyone making reference to the essential importance of Magna Carta, which is to say Magna Carta 1215, accept no imitations. Anyone even mentioning Magna Carta is quickly derided as a nut and a crank flogging a dead horse.
Yeah. You try quoting the Magna Carta to the British legal system and the police, and they'll laugh at you. Literally, I'll tell you a funny story, right? I only got arrested once in my life. Wrongly arrested, actually. I've already proved my innocence with the evidence, and the police have just sat on it for months, like idiots. So if I was in jail, they would have just left me to rot if I was an innocent man, showing how inept and negligent they are. They don't care about the British public. Oh yeah, my point. So when I was detained at Forth Banks Police Station in Newcastle, it had just opened, and they'd kept me there for like 23 hours, 42 minutes in a cell. And in that entire period, I had like 2 sausages and like a glass of water, like this big, like literally like this big, tiny glass of water, right? In 24 hours, basically. So it wasn't the daily requirements for a man needs to eat. Not to mention the fact they didn't give me my medication for my pain relief, which is gabapentin, nerve painkiller. So I was literally at risk of death from not having medication that is essential to you. Because if you're on gabapentin, right, and you don't take it, you can end up having fits and like cardiac arrest. You can literally die. I could have died fitting in that cell because of how negligent they were. They didn't care. So anyway, I wrote them a complaint to say, look, you just didn't give me enough food. You just didn't give me enough water. And they were like, yes, that's true. It was because it was a new PlayStation. And I wrote them back and I was like, well, I don't know if you're aware, but you've just admitted to breaching the Human Rights Convention, specifically Section 3, not giving your prisoners enough food and water. You also broke Section 3, where you didn't give me legal representation when requested because it was too late. There was only 15 minutes until it would have been 24 hours, and so you told me it was too late and I didn't get one. So they denied me legal representation. So there are 3 human rights breaches. Although Northumberland Police did deny the third count, that it was true, they did deny me legal representation. And the first and second count of not providing enough food and not providing enough water for their prisoner, they did admit to, which is a breach of the EU Human Rights Charter. We were part of the EU then. It's also a breach of the Geneva Convention, what they've done with the Mental Health Act by forcing injections into people. It's human experimentation. They've done things in the knowledge it wouldn't cure me, just to see if it helps. That is human experimentation. That's a breach of the Geneva Convention. Like, The British government in 2025 is Germany 1940. That's where we are. That's literally where we are. They do this on a daily basis to British people, and it could happen to any single one of you, but they want you to talk about boats. They want you to talk about boats and foreigners. They don't want you to talk about this sort of stuff. The things they're doing wrong to you. They don't want to talk about that.
But I say that even if that were true, and it isn't, but even if that were true, that there's no written constitution, down deep where it matters, decent and reasonable people know what's right and true, with or without a constitution, written or otherwise. When Magna Carta was sealed by King John in 1215, it wasn't saying anything new. It was simply restating fundamental truth that already by 1215 was old beyond the reach of memory. We don't have democracy in this country.
That's correct. We do not have democracy. We have an illusion of democracy, you see. So we have a royal family who install a democratic government to run the country. So they get blamed for everything. But when I write to the king to try and get him to stop British people being tortured under the Mental Health Act, he didn't reply. What he did do was get our government to go and deliver a letter to Donald Trump in America, which was a piss take. So it's not a democracy, right? Because the king doesn't do anything. He says he doesn't get involved in politics, yet he's sending invitations to politicians with our politician. So yes, he does get involved in politics. He's a fucking liar. They're not supposed to get involved. He does get involved, right? When he wants to, not when he doesn't want to. Which is why I don't support the royal family anymore. They could stop British people being tortured, but they don't. So why would I support them? Why would any of you support someone who's allowing our people to be tortured and they are the one person who could stop it? Why would you support them? But anyway, what was the point?
Fundamental truth that already by 1215 was old beyond the reach of memory. We don't have democracy.
Oh yeah, we don't have democracy, right? Because if we did, when it comes to elections, you could vote for your friends. You could vote for anyone. But it's not done like that, is it? You get to choose between the candidates the government has allowed you to choose from. Every time, you either choose this side of the house or that side of the house, right? You don't get to choose me. Like, I can't just put my name down as on the list for general election for Prime Minister. Because you have to get the majority of MPs to get Prime Minister. So, unless you have a party, you actually can't become Prime Minister. So, I can't run for an election. So it's not a democracy, is it? Because you're supposed to be, anyone's allowed to run for an election, and you're allowed to vote for anyone. Not only can I not run for an election as an independent and win, it's literally physically impossible. The laws have made it impossible. You can't do it, right? And not only that, but even if I could get my name in the ballot paper as an independent, which I technically can, right? And it's cheaper than a party, I can't win the election. I can only win my local MP seat. I can't become Prime Minister. Like, you can't vote me in as Prime Minister. It's not a democracy. It is not. We live in an illusion. It's a fake democracy. If it was a real democracy, they wouldn't need to announce the candidates. They wouldn't need to tell you who they are. You just go down to the booth on election day and write down who you want to be leader. And it would be whoever got the most votes would be the leader. There would be no, this is the candidate, that's the candidate, you choose this or that. There would be none of that. That is not democracy. Democracy is you walk in and you write down whatever fucking name you want. That's democracy. Any choice, any person, and any person can run for that choice. That is democracy. We don't have that. Like, you've got to spend £1 million just to get your name on the fucking piece of paper. Fucking democracy. We live in a dictatorship. Currently, a Nazi regime that tortures disabled people and calls it medical treatment. Remember that. Dr. Willis and Aslan Pizzada. Pricks.
In this country, and we feel it, and it makes us sick. The same friend who gave me the line about voting in elections being little different than mob rule also told me, quote, one of the complaints set out in the American Declaration of Independence of 1776 was that the British Crown was depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. The so-called establishment of today has all but destroyed what serves as our immune system.
I would like to raise the point that in Britain we have what's called the Crown Prosecution Service, and they handle all criminal convictions for the criminal justice system, essentially, right? So, the Crown Prosecution Service, as is named, Crown. It's the royal family. So, that means every single person in Britain who has ever been wrongly convicted, the royal family was to blame. Because their name is literally on it. Crown. So any person in Britain who's ever, over the hundreds of years, been wrongly convicted and charged, once you go far up the chain, eventually you get to the CPS, and then the government, and the CPS, and the head of the CPS, and who's in charge of the CPS? Oh, it's the Crown.
With smiles on their faces and a superior look,
So who's responsible for all the innocent men, women and children who have been wrongly executed, wrongly imprisoned, wrongly tortured? That's right, it's the royal family. The people you all kiss the arse of. William, I love you, William. Oh, Harry, we hate you, Harry. We hate you, Harry, because the king doesn't like you anymore. The king lets you all be tortured, and you fucking defend him. Mugs. Fucking mugs.
the myrmidons presume to tell us this loss is for the common good, don't they always? If you think the subject of trial by jury is dull, far less irrelevant, then I'm here to tell you that you're dangerously wrong. Freedom of speech is holy. Freedom to do what you want with your own money is holy. Right to privacy is holy. Challenge to despotism, up to and including its overthrow, is not just our right, but the living, breathing obligation of every honest man and woman. Trial by jury, by which we, the people, decide the justice or not of legislation, is our only defence against tyranny. It's our only defence, our immune system against the cancer of that tyranny. But it's also the only defence we need. Stand up and say so.
Well said, Mr. Oliver. Well said. This is why I used to watch him, you know. He's a great speaker on matters. He's very good at speaking on matters. He used to put his talent towards history and education, and that's why I watched him. That's how I know him. I used to watch him and Mary Beard, like, nearly every day. Like, he's a legend. And I find it sad that I have to watch you on GB News, because I see GB News as part of the problem, Mr. Oliver. So, the very employer you're working for is the very people responsible for the problem you're talking about. But thank you for all your work in science and history. I think you're a fantastic educator. And although I may differ on certain opinions with you, you have my respect, Mr. Oliver. Good day. Bye-bye.